This is a narrative interpretation of the events in Genesis, specifically from Genesis 4 to 9. This represents what I have found to be the most coherent and unifying explanation of all the events that take place in these chapters. I have written a long essay explaining why this interpretation is biblically sound, and a link will be included in the description. Adam and Eve are placed outside the garden and banished to work the ground. God has made a series of consequential changes to creation, not to punish the man and woman, but to put them on a path of restoration, anticipating the seed of the woman that would redeem the now fallen world. Eve gives birth to a son and names him Cain with the help of God. Believing that this might be the promised seed, she also has another son, Abel. In the course of time, it becomes clear that Abel is the one God prefers, not Cain. Cain succumbs to spiritual temptation, listening to the lie of the enemy, which seeks to destroy the promised child, and he kills his brother Abel. Much like Adam and Eve, being banished from the Garden of Eden, God takes away Cain's ability to grow crops, not simply to punish, but to set Cain on a path of redemption, to wander off to a remote land and accomplish other plans that God has for him. Adam and Eve have another son, Seth, but this time the son is made in the image and likeness of Adam, clearly bearing a resemblance to his father. This is the seed of man. Cain wanders to the east to a land called Nod. Here he has children, and his descendants remain in relative isolation from the greater part of humanity. Cain's descendant, Lamech, a fierce patriarch who uses the power of reputation to protect his family from attack in an increasingly violent world, takes 2 wives. Ada bears 2 sons, Jabal, the father of all who dwell in tents and keep flocks, and Jubal, the father of all who play the harp and flute. Zillah has a son, Tubal-Cain, who is the forger of bronze and iron tools, and she also has a daughter, Naamah. In the west, Seth's descendants eagerly anticipate the coming Savior, and great hope is placed in Enoch, who walks with God. But Enoch is removed from the earth. Unless he returns, he cannot be the Savior they are looking for. Methuselah, the son of Enoch, takes a wife from the distant east, Naamah, the daughter of Lamech, sister of Tubal-Cain. At some point, angelic beings, seeing the beauty of the female form, native to humans but foreign to their kind, contrive a way to take these women as wives. Their superiority to mortal men makes them prized as the match in the eyes of women and of their fathers. The sons they bear are giants and mighty heroes. However, much like the mule, the strength of the hybrid comes at a cost, and these Nephilim do not produce heirs of their own. New daughters are rarely born into the world, and the balance begins to shift. Methuselah and Naamah have a son, and he is named Lamech, after his maternal grandfather. Lamech learns the use of bronze and iron tools from his uncle, Tubal-Cain, and passes it on to his son, Noah, hoping that this child could bring some comfort into the ever-worsening world. Noah grows up in an ever more frightening world. Despite the hope that his father has put in him, Noah struggles to find a wife to build a life with, as people have abandoned the command that God gave them to be fruitful, and have instead labored in attempts to make themselves equal with God by sacrificing their daughters and sons to demons and giants. Women are rare, and those who are raised in the wicked centers of civilization are educated early in perversion, hoping to give themselves to the Nephilim, who always consume and never bear fruit. In an effort to escape the wickedness of the culture, the patriarchs travel far to the west, all the way to the edge of the continent, where the land meets an endless sea. After 500 years, Noah finally finds a woman to wed, and in a short span she bears him 3 sons. But then she is gone, killed, captured, or seduced by evil, we do not know. God commands Noah to build an ark, an enormous boat, and in this command tells Noah that he is to bring his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives with him. The world has become a corrupt and desolate place. How can Noah find women suitable to be wives for himself and his family? The women who can be found have all been corrupted by the influence of sin. If a woman has already become one flesh with a man, even if he is dead, her children bear his name, not the name of Noah and his sons. Noah begins to act in faith, to do what he can, and trusts in the Lord to provide. He begins the massive undertaking of constructing the ark, felling the massive trees that were planted in the time of his forefathers, Adam, Seth, and Enoch. As he works to store provisions and complete the construction, he finally decides to send one of his sons eastward to try to find suitable wives from the line of his grandmother, Naamah. After the construction of the ark was complete, the Lord spoke again to Noah, telling him that in 7 days the waters of the flood would come. And as Noah did everything in his power to prepare, he prayed to God for his son's return. Finally, on the 7th day, his son returned with 4 young women. Some were shepherdesses, leading the flocks of sheep and goats, cattle, and other clean animals, and clean birds. And their cousins were playing flutes and lyres, and behind them followed a pair of every wild beast, soothed and made docile by the music. And so God reversed everything that he had done in the first 7 days. The women, the final touch of creation, led the way, followed by the animals, presenting themselves 2 by 2 to Noah as he entered the ark, calling their names given to them by his forefather, Adam. They entered into the ark, filled with the fruits from the trees of the garden, and where once they had lived among the trees had become a seed again, a shell containing all the potential for life on the earth. God shut the door to the ark, and the waters came, reversing the whole of the earth to its prior state, formless and void. After a year of chaos and destruction, the seed found purchase in the soil as the ark rested on dry land, and the inhabitants of the ark came forth, Noah and his wife, who was pregnant, and his sons and their wives. Noah treated his new wife with gentleness and a bit of trepidation, perhaps because she was so young, barely a woman. And when the new child was born, Noah looked with awe and wonder at the child. Noah planted a vineyard from the cuttings he had preserved on the ark, and when the child was weaned, he made wine from the grapes of his vineyard, and after drinking his fill, he approached the tent of his wife to fulfill the command God had given to him and his sons to be fruitful and multiply. He uncovered his nakedness, the nakedness of his wife, and as he succumbed to the effects of the wine, fell asleep in the tent. Ham, his son, noticed what had occurred, and as he looked in, he saw his father unconscious and his wife naked on the blankets that covered the floor of the tent. He approached her, and the shy girl did not resist as he began to use her body for his pleasure. He had already done this before, on the ark, during the chaos and destruction, when his father had been preoccupied and had been looking for another opportunity to take advantage. When he had finished, Ham wanted to brag about his accomplishment, and so he told his brothers, Shem and Japheth, telling them how the girl would not resist if they wanted to go in and have some fun with her. But his brothers were distressed at what he said, and they grabbed a sheet, placing it over their shoulders, and walked backwards into the tent, covering the shy young girl and their father. When Noah wakes up and learns what his son Ham has done, he curses Canaan the son born by his wife. Noah realized at once that the child was not his, because he always knew that the child was not his. He had taken the young girl to his chambers in the ark, but he had not consummated the marriage. The Lord had told him to wait until the ark had landed, as his sons would, because the other girls were even younger than Noah's bride. He was not in a hurry to become one flesh with this young girl, whom he had met on the day she entered the ark, and he could tell she was nervous about being married to a man who was nearly 50 times her age. So when Noah discovered that the girl was with child, he thought it was a miracle. He had deduced that the only sign that would prove a child was the promised seed of the woman, destined to crush the head of the serpent and free humanity, must be born from a virgin. But now Noah felt a fool. He was ashamed of his hope, and he would let his sons continue thinking that he had consummated his marriage on the ark. But he could not reward Ham for his wickedness, and it would not be good for the child to be raised by his natural father. He had already shown signs that he was not the promised child Noah had hoped he might be, but Noah had tried not to worry. Now it all made sense. Conceived in wickedness, the child would need a good example to curb the inclinations of his flesh. Shem would take care of the child and his mother, and Japheth as well. Their families would be blessed through this. Noah lamented that he would not bear any more children of his own. He could not take the girl to be his wife now. She had united herself to his son. In the eyes of God, they were one flesh. Any women of the future generations would be Noah's granddaughters. It would not be right to take them as wives. So Noah's line would increase through the lines of his sons. Through them alone would the whole earth be filled. After this incident, the mother of Canaan bore another child, a daughter, from Ham's second act of indiscretion. As Noah looked on the young girl, he was glad that she may in time become a good wife to one of his grandsons, perhaps to Shem's new child, Arphaxad. This new world, shattered and disjointed, yet cleansed from the wickedness of the past, would continue to wait in eager anticipation for the seed of the woman, and Noah felt that though he was wrong about Canaan, he had rightly heard from the Lord, and that through these wives of his sons and their daughters, God had preserved the seed of promise on the ark, the seed of the woman who would one day be born of a virgin and would redeem this broken world.